Okay. It is 1:08 and we're going to call to order the Building and Planning Committee and special meeting for the Board of Directors. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda.
Well, since Ross isn't here, can we, and if David is okay with moving it later in the meeting, moving it down or just deferring it?
Oh, the approval of the agenda?
Yeah, just moving item E down a little ways until Ross can get here.
Until Ross arrives.
Okay.
Yeah. If David is okay with that too. I don't want to tie up his time if he wants to call back or.
I can be as flexible as you all need me to be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, David.
Certainly.
So with that, I'll make them, if everybody's okay with that, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I'll
With
second.
that change.
All right. Your vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your vote? I'm a yes. And Jean isn't on
No.
and Ross isn't here. So, okay. We'll move it with the changes of doing letter E when Ross arrives. There is no one here from the public. So no public comments at this time. Oh. Hello, Ross.
Hi there. Hey, I'm stuck in traffic, but I thought I'd listen in.
Well, actually, we're just doing the approval of agenda, and because you are not able to attend in person at this time, you can still vote and everything, right?
This would qualify as.
This would qualify. Yes. You calling in. Okay.
I'll double check with Scott, but I think we're fine.
All right. So what we did, Ross, was we were doing the approval of the agenda with just holding off on E until you were here. But since you're here, I'm just going to go ahead and accept the approval as we did it of the agenda. And the next thing is approval of minutes from the October 29th. If there were any changes, if not, I'd like a motion on that.
I'll move that set.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ross, your vote?
Yes.
John, your vote?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Fred?
Yes.
Thank you. So the discussion that we're going to have now is on the Trans-Handicap X Index allocation change opportunity. And Tim and Ross, this is listed for you. We're on pages 5 and 6.
Okay, so as you recall, we had met a couple months ago on this issue and we wanted to delay it until after the presidential election to see if there was any change in the interest rates or any effect on the market. And we were asking our consultant, David Wright, to give his opinion on any changes after the election. So after we hear that, then the proposed action is to select one of those choices for our investment and then be done with it for the year.
All right. Thank you, Ross. So David, you're up.
David,
Dave,
you're on mute.
You're on mute, David.
There you
As,
go.
as many of these calls as I do, you'd think I'd figure that out. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, just again, as Ross said, there was some discussion a couple of months back on whether or not to make an index allocation change. Remember, this is for the repayment policy, which is primarily designed and geared towards repaying the district. So as it stands now, this repayment policy that is issued through Nationwide is allocated 100% to the one-year multi-index strategy. That strategy is a weighted average of the monthly returns of the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the NASDAQ 100. Went back and did a few calculations just to bring some of this stuff up to date. And given how each one of these indices has done, at least segment to date, more than likely going to credit at the cap, which is currently 10.25%. So should be a very, very strong crediting event. And just to remind everybody, even though all these indices are up, 20+%, the 50% weight to the best performing index, 30% weight to the second best, and 20% weight to the third best, but they're all over 20%. So at least for the year. So it's going to be a strong strong crediting event. Just as a reminder, this policy was built assuming a long-term average rate of return of 5.8%. And so looking back at how this policy has done so far, before this crediting event, it was about 4.73%. That was primarily due to a zero crediting in the very first year. Crediting at the cap is more than likely going to get you all back up to or very near that original crediting assumption. So this is going to put us right on track. One thing to point out is that particular strategy, again, this is asking you all to dig back a couple of years, but one of the things that the carriers can do is actually move one of these metrics in these policies just as a way to help them keep up with current economic conditions. And in this multi-index strategy, the thing that they can move is that cap rate. So over this intervening year, what that cap rate has actually come down fairly substantially from the 10.25 down to 7% for the new segment going forward. And that's important. You still have the opportunity to get the 5.8 that was projected, but it does limit your upside a little bit. So as much as I like that multi-index strategy, one of the things I'd like to point out, and we go to the bottom of page 5. Strategy you're in is right at the top of that table on the bottom of the page. The other one that I believe is worth some consideration is the high cap multi-index, which is down 2/3 of the way down that table. It has that 10.25% cap, but notice to the far right there is a charge associated with that. So it's essentially agreeing to add a little bit of an extra charge to the policy as a way to buy up that cap from 7% to 10.25. So if you think about it, it's essentially a net 9.25% cap. And so that may be more appealing to you all.
I wonder
than staying with-
why I don't have sound.
Jim, can you mute yourself, please?
Bizarre.
You can do it for her. There we go. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, David.
Oh, no worries at all. So again, I think that may be one worth considering just because you'll have a higher cap opportunity. Again, the trade-off is going to be you're going to be adding some expense to the policy. But if we have another good year in the market, you'll trade 1% of expense for essentially another 325 basis points worth of potential crediting. So I could see the logic to stay where you are, but again, I think that one is worth some consideration as well. And you don't have to pick just one, by the way. You can pick among several of these options.
So you can do 50% of the current one plus 50% of this other one if you wanted to.
That's correct.
Okay.
Just has to be in whole percentage points is all.
Okay.
But loving where things are going. Again, I think you guys are going to have a great crediting year for this current segment that matures here in about a little less than a month on December 15th. So I hope that background is helpful. Any questions or comments?
Not for myself, David. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So David, you would recommend to go ahead and do where we pay the 1%? It's going to be our favor, probably, potentially.
Potentially. Again, you're making a bet that the market's going to do better than 7, because if it does 7, you're better off staying where you're at. So you're making the bet that things are going to go pretty well in the market given where the election came out. I'm a pretty conservative person by nature. I own a policy similar to this. I don't put all of my eggs in one basket. So to Tim's point, think about maybe going 50-50 into these two strategies. That way you limit the overall expense to the policy, but still give yourself some additional upside over 7.
Any other questions? You guys want to make a decision on this, or do you want to discuss it before we go forward?
I mean, Ross,
Okay, let me, just before,
sorry.
Ross, I just got information that, it does not count as an emergency or planned, right? Is that what it says?
Scott says it's not a qualifying event for us to be able to participate.
Right, so, that changes things. So I just wanted to let you know that before we vote on anything.
How far out is Ross?
I'm at Paradise Cove, but the traffic has stopped, so I'm probably not going to make the meeting. I've been sitting here for about 20 minutes. So I'll just mute myself and listen in and no longer vote.
Okay, and if things change and you can get here before, can we move the vote to the end?
I'll defer to the wisdom of the board. We need to take action on this thing today, so you guys move forward with it.
Ross, we will do that, but can we move the vote to the end of the meeting on the agenda in case you do make the meeting?
You can totally do that.
Yeah, I would think we could do that.
I just don't want to keep David hanging on for the whole.
Oh, not at all.
No, we can call it, we can contact him back,
Yes.
Okay, all right.
okay?
And
All
I
right.
have my phone right here, so if you want me to drop now, but you guys have questions along the way, Tim can find me and I'll join the meeting again.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much, David.
Thank
Great.
you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
David.
Great seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I just think if he does make it here before, if not, we'll make that decision.
I agree.
With the three of us. Okay, thank you. Okay, project update.
Okay. So not a whole lot of news. Obviously, master plan, no change. Heard nothing from FEMA, which is my understanding is still a good thing, but there's been no additional requests for information.
Okay.
No anything, so I'm assuming it's still proceeding down the road of approval. In Suite C, we are starting to texture the walls and prep for paint. And the carpet is here. And so we'll be wrapping that one up fairly shortly. Not sure, we're not obviously going to quite make end of November that I was shooting for, but
Right, but that's where the cubicles are going, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so also in discussing it with the department that's going to be moving, they really don't want to try and move through the holidays, because of the lost days and things that they have to accomplish with the
Right.
lost days as far as keeping their work current. So they would like to move like 1st of January, which actually works out, really well for the schedule. So that's where we're at on Suite C.
Okay.
And on the emergency generator, all the main wire runs are in. And we're waiting on 3 pieces of switchgear. I had to tarp some of the switchgear that the wires that they pull through are so large that we cannot, and they didn't have time to terminate. So we couldn't close up the waterproof cabinets. So we just simply tarped.
Blue tarp.
Blue tarp.
Tarps. Yes. And so we're just waiting on the switchgear, which they're telling us now is in December. But, it was supposed to be October, then it was supposed to be November, then it's supposed to be December. So we're unfortunately in that queue waiting on 3 pieces of switchgear. I have received from them the various shutdowns that we need to do in order to make the tie-ins. And so now what I'm going to do in the next week or 2 while we're waiting is sit down and figure out every department that's going to affect and for how long. And what workarounds do we have while we have the power down to say the entire skilled nursing facility for 4 hours or this kind of a thing, or the entire kitchen will be down, for some of these cutovers, because those are areas that are currently on normal power and have to be moved to the switchgear that's going to be on emergency power. So I've gotten the 4 shutdowns that they're going to have to do and what gear it's going to affect. And so now I got to sit down and see what gear that feeds and then make a list of all the areas that will be down and what portions of them will be down. And so that will be our biggest challenge to wrapping up the project, which I'm hoping is still going to be in February, but to get everything onto the new system. We did, it looks like we got approval on our permit finally with the county for the fuel line work. You know, it was like pulling teeth to get them to understand the minimal amount of work we were doing and what they wanted on the permit process with them, but that's been done. So, yeah, so it's, you know, we're moving ahead slowly. We make little movements forward and then we sit and wait. If I'd have known that the switchgear was going to be this sort of a problem, you know, we'd probably worked at ordering the switchgear back a year and a half ago when we ordered the generator. Because then we would have had everything, and then had all of that supplied by the hospital. As it was, we just had the generator and transfer switches supplied by the hospital. Knowing that in the past, those were the long lead items. The regular switchgear has never been an issue this way until here recently with.
And so with the emergency generator, that would be like whether the kitchen would have to provide like cold meals for the residents at a certain time.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and when we get down to the, you know, the stove installation, that was a negotiation we had with CDPH. But I can explain that when we get down to that project.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So, yeah. And so that's, you know, it's going to be substantial, but none of them exceed expected 4 hours. So, yeah. All right. So that's the generator. Boiler number 2 is done. All work is completed. The ACD has been approved for the bracing. The inspector has approved the bracing per the approved ACD. Basically, the next step will be to request closure in compliance with OSHPD, which we'll be doing here shortly. And then paying the final couple of bills, which actually you have one today for approval. So that project took longer than expected, but went well, went smoothly, and is done. And we are running every other week. We're running on the new boilers. We run 1 week on the old boilers, 1 week on the new, so they both get utilized and not sit idle. And they're working perfectly. Okay. And then NPC seismic upgrade of dietary surgery. I've gotten no movement. I'm not quite sure why HCI is not giving our architect the responses to why they didn't just approve our plan. And so anyway, I'm a little frustrated with OSHPD HCI on not just issuing an approval, because our plan is to seismically upgrade the things that need to be upgraded, fire sprinklers, et cetera. And that was, and that's our plan. And all they need to do is approve the plan. And then we actually have to do actual plans submitted for the exact braces that are going to be added, et cetera, down the road. But yet they haven't given us approval of the plan. So we can't proceed with the actual, but this is not a rush. This is the NPC work, which on the newer buildings, which you know, the whole thing becomes a moot point if we don't seismically upgrade the original building. So, you know, it's the requirement to be NPC compliant is still years down the road. So that's why I'm not pushing this one real hard. It's just something we're working slowly towards. And then again, if we were to not get funding from FEMA, we might not do any of the rest of the work either. Why spend the money making buildings compliant when the hospital's going to close in 2030 or whatever they do to extend that, or, you know what I'm saying is
An alternate means of compliance.
Yeah, it all just, yeah, they're, you know, they're not, as they've said, they're not going to close hospitals, but they know that lots of hospitals are not going to make the 2030 deadline. And we will if we get the FEMA money. If we don't, then we'll be right in that with the group of hospitals that are not going to make seismic compliance by 2030. And go from there. Right, Tim?
I say we're in good company there.
Oh, yeah. We have lots of company.
Or
Yes.
we've waited long enough that the state's going to pay for it. That was good. Huh?
I did have a conversation. I had a meeting with our architect and engineers this week, and we discussed multiple projects. And one of them was this one. And I was explaining to them, we're still just waiting on FEMA. And that if FEMA doesn't come through, other than Oshpod deciding to give us the money, you know, to complete the project, it's not going to happen. And they, of course, they laugh because they know that they don't have the money to do it, you know. I mean, they got a little bit of money through some of these programs, and we actually received some of it for the study we did for the seismic project. It was refunded to us from HGI. Anyway, all right. So your dietary stove installation, everything is here. The stove is here. My bracketry is here. The special seismic legs are here. We have started the removal process of the steam kettles. This being a short week and having lots of roof leaks and 2 guys off sick, we decided not to move forward on the stove this week, but we're going to be hitting that next week as far as getting it prepped and start putting it in. It's a minor project, but we have to have all our ducks in a row because we don't want to take them down very long, because we have an agreement with CDPH on a phone call between myself, our dietary manager, and CDPH that, you know, we have to do everything, not to give them, make sure they have the ability to continue to provide, you know, hot food to the residents and staff and patients, and also to not create dust and stuff in the kitchen while they're cooking and that sort of thing. I have 8 holes to drill in the concrete. It's not, you know, and we use a vacuum while we're drilling. I mean, but those are the sort of their concerns, you know, make sure that everything is done in a clean, proper process. Of course, the inspector has to be here to witness the anchorage and whatnot. And we've agreed to do it in 2 evenings. So what we will do is we will have the stove 100% ready to go. And then we will come in the evening and we'll tear out the existing stove, clean everything up, redo anything we have to do with the wiring. And then probably get the stove set in place and mostly anchored down, but it gives us a second evening if we need to go for more than 1 evening. I mean, if everything went really well, we could do it in 1 evening after they close. The other thing I have to do though, prior to, because I can't utilize the stove until I do, is the Ansel fire suppression system in the hood has to be modified. And so I've got them scheduled to be here next week to change it from, you know, 2 heads over the existing stove to 5 heads over the longer stove. And that was all in the approved plan. So it's just a matter of just getting the work done. They told me they could be here next week to do that. And so once that is done, that way, the second I get that stove in and I can turn it on, I can legally use it because we have the appropriate fire suppression.
Was that something that has to be done in off hours for the kitchen also? Okay, we
Probably not, because all they're going to do is they're going to go up there and they're going to unthread an existing pipe and they're going to extend it out with a couple more T's and just bring those new drops down.
Okay.
Yeah. So now my plan is though to schedule it in hours that they're not doing their main cooking. So, yeah. All right. Skilled nursing building reclassification. The narrative and drawings are done. If anybody wants to see them, there's the set of the narrative and the drawings. And those have been sent off to Oshpod for hopefully get their acceptance of that we can reclassify that building to skilled nursing, since they've got improperly classified many.
Which was an error in the first place.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. The architect back many years ago before my time made an error in reporting the buildings. And, but you know, Oshpod's not just willing to just change it and say, okay. Anyway, so their concern is that if it's not seismically as stringently built as the hospital, if it were to collapse in an earthquake, do we have the ability to isolate off the utilities and everything so that we keep the acute care buildings in service? That's their concern.
And we do.
we believe we do. These drawings and the narrative, the proof of that, and we're just waiting for them to agree.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm sure that's a lot of work, but.
It was a lot of attic crawling and stuff. Yeah. So. All right. Anyway. All right. So, and then we've, due to just everything going on, we're not even beginning to start on cosmetic work for dietary, but we want to get their stove in first. That's a higher priority.
Makes sense.
And that's everything for the status of projects.
Any questions, anybody? All right, thank you. Okay, Bob, acute care restroom remodel project.
Okay, so it was asked, what could we do to make the restrooms look better and work better? And so I put some time on it into this. Starting on page. So on page 8, or actually 9, what I wanted you to understand is that, okay, this is how the floor currently is. There are, of course, they were color coded here, but this is black and white. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 restrooms. Yes. And so when we're all done with it, let's just say the size of the project starts in 3 months and we're roaring down through that. When we're all done, we'll have 5 of those original restrooms. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't losing like most of them, and whatever work we were doing was just throwing money out the window. So that was why I just did this little study. So, and we, and one of those restrooms is in room 1 that it's used for the break room for nursing. So we wouldn't even have to do that one if we didn't want to, because we're trying to make it nicer for the patients. So what we looked at, Tim and I looked at, was, okay, what do we want to do in the restrooms? Understanding that the shower tile is the shower tile is not something we can easily take out. It's the old fashioned tile that's put on cement. And they literally plaster the walls with chicken wire and cement, and getting that tile off is near impossible. It would be hugely disruptive with air jackhammers and stuff to chip it all off and then try and come back, and it would be extremely expensive. But I only considered that because it isn't the most lovely, modern looking, nice tile. It's not that bad looking, and it's in very good condition. There's not like bad grout lines. Tile is in excellent condition. So we didn't consider doing that. I approached a glass company in Bakersfield about replacing the shower. The shower doors are kind of ugly. They're old aluminum frames with wire glass, upscale glass, and they aren't very pretty. So they gave me a budgetary number of $1,300 to $1,500.
Hey, Gene, you're in the meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. So a budgetary number of $1,300 to $1,500 to take out the existing shower door and putting it in a nice modern shower door that's like all thick glass or whatever, like it's the new thing. So, and then the toilets are the little short toilets. If you've ever sat on them, it's like if you have your taller one at home and you go sit on one of those others, it seems like you're almost sitting on the floor. So I thought, well, let's replace the toilet. They're not terribly expensive. It's $227. What's a little more expensive is that bedpan flush valve assembly that has a arm that comes down to wash the bedpans. And these toilets are a special toilet that actually have flanges so that the bedpan sits into these flanges, and then the bedpan washer folds down and washes it out.
So you're not having
to try and hold the bedpan and wash it at the same time. Anyway, so that's a chunk of the cost. It's a little over $1,000, but a nice new taller toilet, AD accessible, and a new bedpan and flush valve, and minimal paint. What my staff would do, because not a whole lot of painted walls in those bathrooms. We'd replace the code base. I don't want to replace the flooring because the flooring in the rooms goes into the bathrooms, and underneath that flooring is 7x7 asbestos contained.
Yeah.
So if I were to do the bathroom, we'd have to do a abatement in every bathroom. And then you still have to meet up to what's in the, and it's good looking flooring. It's not, it's good commercial, like med and tech, hospital grade flooring. But the code base around the perimeter of the, could be replaced with a nicer color. So, I figured $30 per room, no flooring replacement, no tile replacement. So anyway, so I figured it's going to be around a little over $2,500 per restroom. Now, the only other thing we talked about, but I don't have a cost on, is a lot of the showers don't work very well as far as producing hot water. Now, we have some problems of the old pipes. The hot water is a loop that runs down this side of the hallway and loops around and back up the other side of the hallway, and it circulates all the time. The temperature range of the water in a hospital has to be up between 106 and 120 degrees. 120 is good and warm. You almost feel like you're going to burn yourself, but it won't actually burn you. 106 is a little on the cool side, a little warmer than your spa at home, so we don't have that all the way around the loop. And I don't know if it's just because of the loop piping, which is old galvanized piping that is corroded and restricted, or whether we're just having some problems with old shower valves. So if we're going to do this project, I would probably like to, and there is actually an access panel on the room side of the bathroom to access the back of the shower valve. And what I'd like to do maybe even is in one of the rooms, we want to pick one of the rooms where the shower doesn't get hot. And I want to gut out the shower valve and replace it with a new one and see if we get better water temperatures, because that is one of the complaints, is that the showers
don't have temperature, do you still have flow?
Well, we have relatively decent flow, which makes me think that it may or may not be a loop problem. But I know there's some loop problem because weekly we take water temperatures to show that we're in compliance with state regulations. So one of my staff goes around and he takes the water temp here, and a little further down the hall, he'll take a water temp. He'll take readings and he logs that, and we maintain that log. So we know that it gets cooler as you go around the room. Yeah. The last room, we aren't getting 106 degrees. And to try and compensate, the water leaving the hot water heater is at 130, which is way in excess of the 120. But by the time it gets to the units, it's already cooled off. So our testing shows that we're not exceeding the maximum temperature required by code. So that's one of the issues I'm still trying to work a solution out, is can we get better temperature shower water along with this, if we so choose to move ahead with, doing some of these.
Replacing the guts is the first start. So it's going to tell you what's going on.
Sure. And they're an old Simmons single handle, hot, cold.
You just explained 90% of the problem.
Yeah. So, but not easily just swapped out. Seeing that none of the shut off valves will even move.
Hey, Gene's got a
Bob, can you hear me?
problem.
Yes, Gene.
Okay, Bob, not that I definitely desperately want to see you do everything you're talking about doing. However, the FEMA money, if anything's done prior to, is that part of, or is that normal maintenance that we're doing, or it won't interfere with if we happen to get FEMA money with the FEMA money?
No, this would not. This is just maintenance repairs.
Okay, great.
I don't see that don't see that anybody could argue that we are starting in on the project, because actually this scope of work is not in that project.
Yeah. So this piping is galvanized, you said? Yeah. The old.
But at some point it's been converted. So what comes down the walls is copper. So.
Okay.
But I know it's galvanized because in the boiler room where it leaves, it's in galvanized. So
when you have like drips, does it have like a rust kind of, like, I don't know if that happens in the hospital or not, but I know in some, like the galvanized piping, it has like a rust kind of thing.
Every time we shut off the water and we turn the water back on, we get brown water. We have to run all the sinks for, 20 minutes to get that rust flushed out. Yeah, the pipes are in horrible condition, but I'm hoping to work around that if we decide to do some of this.
The only reason why I asked is one of my places in LA had the old galvanized piping from the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Like one little drip just became this huge, massive project. I'm just hoping that's not going to be the case with this. They don't jinx it, Fred.
The worst one I ever saw was in a hospital in Glendale when we tore out some piping and the pipe was this big around and you could barely put a pencil in the hole in the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that you'd made the statement on being a single valve operation.
Yes.
You just described 90% of the hot water problem to start with.
Yes. Yeah. Those are an inherent maintenance issue. Every hospital that I have ever been in operations in have those valves. And I can tell you that we would know when the shower valve had a problem because we'd be getting hot water in the toilet.
Yeah.
Because the hot water overrides the pressure of the cold water when the shower valve goes bad and all of a sudden you have steam coming out of your toilet.
So
Dead giveaway.
my question would be, are you going to check the pipes before we start any of this other stuff?
Well, what I would like to do, because we have Suite C and some of these things to get done. What I would like to do is we'll pick a bathroom that the nurses say we can't, like the one the other day that they said they couldn't get the water hot enough. And we'll say, okay, let's do this one. And I will find an appropriate shower valve. I would like to go something that is 2 separate handles versus one of those single swing handles.
Correct.
And let's make the modification on that shower and let's see if that resolves the majority of the issue. Because I think that's a bigger complaint than actually exactly how the rooms look would be that I can't take a hot shower. Is somewhat of a concern. I don't know. I know there's all of it really kind of needs to be done.
No, I understand that. So then you're going to finish working on C?
Yeah.
Before you even look at the pipes in one of the bathrooms?
Well, I'll probably go ahead and get a valve ordered.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. And then how long, you're thinking of one restroom at a time, right? Because it's one restroom in between.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're taking 2 rooms basically out of service.
Okay. All right. And do you have just an estimate of how long that would take you?
For this scope of work, I would want to say 2 weeks versus trying to get it done in 1.
Okay.
With getting the valves and the different new items we would have to acquire, do you think that's going to push you over your budgetary limits?
No, because we're doing one at a time.
I understand that, but still, if we're looking at it as a
Well,
whole.
prices are going to drop.
Well, don't you have an analysis of that?
Well, he has that 17.5, but we're not talking valves or any of the work that has to be done.
But the shower, a good shower valve is about $400 for good quality. So, and the rest of it's labor on our part. Luckily, I don't have to deal with the issues of shut-off valves that don't shut off. I have this really, really nice piece of equipment that just freezes the pipe.
It freezes the end.
Yeah. And then I can put in a new shut-off valve in that access panel. It's right there in the wall, and then get new fresh shut-off valves in. Then I can spend the time plumbing it into the new shower valves.
What are we looking at for permitting once you dive into the plumbing?
Oh, there's no permit needed. It's all maintenance repairs. I know. I cringe every time I touch these old pipes.
Yeah, because I'm one just to explode.
No, I've had several.
Fred, geez.
Sorry,
Hey, Bob.
We had to get a repair
Gene
plan.
has a question or something?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
comment?
Gene.
The new pipe are for the whole thing. Are you using that new PEX or going copper?
Well, because the existing drops are copper, I will stay copper on this particular project versus trying to convert to PEX. I mean, I love PEX. I'm replumbing my entire cabin in PEX. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It is really awesome.
And,
It's
and,
really easy to convert too.
and the latest code cycle that we're on allows PECs in hospitals, which is a
It does.
first.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at on this. I don't know this really needs a decision today, but I was asked to look into it. And so I would like to at least proceed with, and I don't need board permission, but I would like to proceed with trying to upgrade one of the shower valves. And let's see how that works.
Great idea.
And then if that works, and then we can look at, okay, let's kind of go ahead and work on getting some of because I'd also like to do some work on some of those rooms at the same time while I have them out of service. I'd like to get rid of some of the wallpaper borders and the old ceiling tiles and stuff like we did. And I think was it room 8, the one that closest to the nurse's station? 6. We did that. We took down the ceiling tile and we smoothed the ceiling. We got rid of the old wallpaper border and we cleaned
Which
it up.
side has the lowest temperature?
I believe it's the other side,
One,
starting with
room 1,
Yeah,
it
but
would be
we,
the coldest shower.
let me check with Alan, but,
Okay.
yeah, because
Because if that's at that end of the loop, maybe that's
Yeah.
the room that you would.
yeah, we might want to start with room 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know that nurses use the shower.
They don't, but I was just thinking we wouldn't take a room down.
That's true.
Just testing as the
Testing it.
system.
All right.
Point.
Because obviously we've got this on as an action item. So are you looking for approval to do just, we'll call it 2 rooms, 1 bathroom at this time?
We could, I mean, I didn't personally say, let's put it on as an action item, but Jean, did you put it on, ask for an action item?
You guys gave
No, but I make a motion that we need a motion that you go ahead and do
So
exactly what you've been talking about.
You don't have to approve it today, but if
Okay.
it wasn't on as an action item, you couldn't have taken action.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Since it is, we may as well.
Yeah.
well, and that's what I'm thinking. Even, I mean, we know you've given us estimates on stuff, 7 restrooms, but even if we give you the authorization action item, vote on, doing the valves, checking the water and starting about the one, at least you can go forward with that.
Sure.
Whether it's just starting to buy the
Component.
components that you need.
All
So,
right.
okay.
Okay.
Can I have a first or a second?
I think Gene
Right.
actually,
Oh, Jean, you have a question?
I think he actually made a motion already.
No,
You did, Jean?
yes,
What's this motion?
yes, I made the motion that we
Go
we
ahead.
do.
You
Uh,
proceed.
However, as a normal maintenance thing, does it even need approval?
I don't know that it does. It's not my, I don't think it's my place to decide that, but I don't know that it does. But I'm bringing it here so that you understand what the costs would be. But it's this, each bathroom by itself is not into the capital dollars.
John, how would you handle that county wise? Because, I mean, technically, yeah, repair and maintenance stuff is not capitalized like that normally. But because of the dollars, county may decide to capitalize it, so.
Well, and if it goes over 25, then it is, right? And it possibly could.
Over 5. But that's why I'm saying costs per bathroom were not exceeding $5,000.
Right.
One at a time.
Makes it capital.
Mhm.
But when you lump all, and we may not do the 7th one if we don't do all of the stuff in the staff one, or we could. But if we did, that's why I gave a cost for seven.
Well, I appreciate that it comes here for action
Yeah.
because it definitely keeps us in the loop.
Yeah.
Because we will ask about it later and ask how come we
How
weren't.
come we haven't gotten it done?
Well, that goes without saying, but how come we
Why
weren't
did-
aware of it? Type thing. When we hear something in public, they're like,
Yeah.
they're doing something in the hospital and we don't know about it.
Yeah.
We'll be like, oh, we don't either, because
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah, no, I'm good. with that.
I'm just saying because you'd be amazed at what people ask you. How come there was no hot water?
Well,
Anyway,
but I also want it to be understood it's not something we can jump all over as
No.
long as we continue down the street with getting those suites done.
and
That sort of
that
thing.
makes a big difference
Yeah, it
to
does.
us also
Yeah,
knowing.
because I really only have about 1.5 guys I can use on projects.
So if we have Gina as a first, somebody want to give me a second? No?
I'll second.
Okay, John. And Fred, your vote?
Yes.
Jean, your vote?
Yes,
I'm a yes. And John, yes. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry you couldn't vote, Ross. The next thing is, the concrete repair project.
Okay, so what I was asked to do is we have two
11
places
through
where tree roots are lifting the sidewalk, creating trip hazards. So it can be a liability.
Yep.
And one of them is literally right at the top of our handicap ramp. It is lifted about 3/4 of an inch, and we've already ground it down 3 times, and it keeps lifting. And so it's a real bad one from a trip hazard standpoint. I approached all 3 contractors that pour concrete here in the valley, which is GL Vega, Lapham Construction, and Kelly Gonzalez. To my knowledge, those are the only 3 guys that pour concrete here. GL Vega declined to bid. You have the Lapham ones in front of you, and I like him a lot, but he is also expensive. But I was able to actually over the phone. It took a good bit of bugging, but Kelly Gonzalez actually finally came out, looked at the job, and then I had to bug him after 3 days that he hadn't gotten me a quote. So he gave me a verbal quote over the phone, and he's going to drop me off hard copies this afternoon. Just so you're okay. So the area at the top of the handicap ramp from Lapham Construction was $8,969. From Kelly Gonzalez, that same section is $6,000. But I only have it verbally as of this morning. And then a section over closer to acute care out in front of the where there's those metal lids and it's all settled and one, we got trip hazards over a whole section. It's actually a larger section, and Lapham quoted it as more cost at $12,377. Interesting enough, Kelly Gonzalez came in on that section for only $4,500. I'm hoping he didn't miss anything, but anyway, so it's almost 20 grand from Lapham, and it's 10.5 from Kelly Gonzalez.
But that cost would probably go up once. Is it fair to guess that it's going to go up once he gives you?
Well, if he gives me a written quote for 44,500,
well, then you're good.
That's all he can bill me for.
Yeah.
You know,
And this is considering.
We call you back, Jay, in about an hour or so, okay? I'm gonna phone call it. Okay.
Lapham,
Really expensive.
John, you have something from him before?
Oh, sorry about that. Thought I was still.
Yeah, not muted. Yeah. But anyway, Kelly does good work.
He does.
You know, he in fact, I was talking to him this morning. He had a job kind of go south over in the other side of the lake because he did a big long retaining wall and the owners went and backfilled before he got it finished and grouted and the wall's leaning.
Oh.
And so he's been dealing with, that's why he didn't get back to me as quick as expected with the quote, because he's been dealing with that issue. It's just like, you do, you know,
It's got a cure.
yeah, got to cure and got to be grouted and got to cure at least a month before you backfill against it. But the owners went ahead and that's what he told me anyway. So that's why he said, I haven't gotten your hard copy bids to you.
And you said you'll get those maybe today?
He said he would try and drop them off today or tomorrow.
Okay.
You know, so this is an action item. I think it needs to be done. I mean, it's
a safety issue.
What's that, Tim?
It's a safety issue. It has to be done.
Yeah, but Kelly is substantially less than Mr. Lapham and.
But without the written quotes, are we able to move forward at the?
Well, my understanding is you could approve us for the larger amount or any quote that's
Prove it not to exceed.
not to exceed. I think we've done that in the past and with Garrett, with our lawyer's permission.
Yeah.
So what is the total from
Kelly?
Kelly? Yeah.
10,500. 6,000 for the area at the handicap ramp and 4,500 for the area by.
Lapham was 21 something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, once we pop those up, are we going to at least take care of the root situations?
Yes. So what the thought is when we pop it up, we take care of the roots, but also something that should have been done when the concrete was originally done. You have cold joints for expansion. Well, what should have been done and wasn't done is you drill in the edge of the one concrete and you epoxy in rebar.
Rebar, correct.
And then those tie into rebar mat in the new. So if that ever lifts again, this side lifts, it lifts both evenly.
Mhm.
And so it becomes a non-issue. We did that all around the flagpole right out here we had some big trip issues there when we redid it. Actually, GL Vega did that and he rebarred that and there's been no issue.
That's common.
Yes.
Any concern about the roots getting into the septic system or the leach line or anything like that?
No, because at the low, our leach, okay. So our leach fields, we have 3 leach fields and they're all under the front parking lot.
Oh, okay.
And the sewer line that comes down, it actually comes down right past the Office of Social Services, comes out right there between acute care and the rehab entrance. And that's that manhole in the grass. Okay, so that's the 8-inch sewer line that comes, it collects all of the buildings together at that point, and then it runs down into the parking lot. There's another manhole out by that island with the olive trees. And then there's another manhole down by the treatment plant. And so but then when we pump the leach fields, the newest ones are right in the driveway in front of the SNF. So that entire, if you look there, you'll see a whole bunch of round metal lids. There's 16 vertical leaches there. And it's in 3 sections. And so we alternate this section, and then next month we alternate into this section and into this section. Then we alternate over to the oldest one from the 68 building, which is kind of where the rehab parking spaces are. And then down closest to the street, there's another 20 vertical leaches there, and then we alternate into those, and then we alternate. So each set of leach fields only gets used once every 5 months.
So Bob, what do you think would be, if he's quoting us verbally at this time, 10.5, and we don't want to just do 10.5 in case it changes, you know? So are you thinking like?
I mean, my only concern is because he was kind of in a hurry. He called me, but we talked. He called me back and gave me the numbers because he was working on a bunch of stuff. So I would be on, my only concern is that if he went back and went, oh, wait a minute, I'm too low on that acute care section for 4,500, because he's 1/3 of Lapham's price. But
I would go with these prices, and if whatever we get less than that is going to be a plus for us.
just go with Lapham's price or
the cheaper proposal, provided you get it in writing.
yeah, but it has to be, it has to be in writing. Then once it's in writing, he can't, even if he bids 4,500 and it costs him $6,000 to put it in, he can only bill us 4,500.
That would also give you the leeway to go with Lapham if Gonzalez doesn't get back to you.
Yes, right.
Exactly.
So,
Well, I'll make a motion to approve not to exceed 15,000.
okay.
And if
Well, it's going to, we're going with this price. It's going to be.
hold on a second, Kelly doesn't come in at that amount, then
We'll have to come bring it back next.
bring it back.
Yeah.
A couple weeks.
Okay.
Well, we still have a safety issue out there in front of PT.
The worst one is in front of.
It's already caused a patient to.
But, you know, I mean, if you folks give me approval today, I mean, I can tell them as soon as you hand me those in writing, I can give you the approval and get you a purchase order. And we get going on the first one, which is the worst one. That really concerns me. I've got caution tape taped down there, and I've got cones and everything I can do to warn people that there is a major tragedy.
I'm just thinking here, just again, because Lapham's is two bids here. You said, because it's 20,000 total. It's not the 12,000. It's 12,000 plus another 9,000.
Right.
So if we're only going to go with one of Lapham's bids, I'd rather get the whole thing approved. And then, like I said, if we get the other one in writing, then great, we can go with that.
My motion is to approve a total of 15,000, not for one project, but for both.
Yeah, which doesn't cover all of Lapham. Would cover all of, even if there's a cost increase when I get it in writing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Jean, your vote?
Yes.
Yes.
You're a yes?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm a yes. Okay, all in favor. Thank you very much. Okay, got that. I is for also you, Bob. You're
Yes.
a one-man show today.
Yeah, in invoice approval, starting on page 15, We just have 3 invoices because we haven't had a lot of work going on. We have, the first one is for JTS on the emergency generator project, and because they got a substantial more work done, they've invoiced us. And if you look back on the pages behind this period, it's 20 grand for installing our ATSs that we've provided, and 24,000 on additional spare conduits, extending the fence, and pipe bollards. So that this actually work that was done a while back. Understood that they got me this invoice 2 days late for getting it into last month. So it's been sitting on our desk for an entire month. It was for the work for the month previous to that. So that's the one for the first one from JTS. The second one is from Greenbow, and it is for the electrical upgrade. Is for construction management work of some work there, and it's for. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I saw Greenbow. I'm sorry. This is the JTS one for the. So we have 2 for the generator project. We have one that's substantially older, and then we have a newer one. And this newer one is covering under work completed this period is for $255,000 for all of the switchgear that they brought in and craned in with the crane last month. And for another $40,000 for labor on mounting the switchgear, $7,500 for small circuits, $16,000 for install owner provided generator and enunciator panels. The generator has to have an enunciator panel in 2 locations, my shop and by the nurse's station. And so they mounted the enunciator panel and got the conduit all and wire pulled in for that. And so that's the second invoice then from JTS on that project. And the third one is from the architect on the boiler project. And it is for $1,340. It basically has them paid to 95% complete. And as we close the project with Oshpod HCI, we'll pay them their last 5% on their contract with the architect, which was for $67,000. And this building of $1,350 gets them to $62,310. So we'll still owe them about $4,700 as the project closes out. So those are the 3 invoices. 2 for the general contractor on the generator. And actually, I already have their next one for the boiler and for the generator, but those will be next month because again, they got here about 3 days late for making it into this billing cycle.
Motion to approve as recommended.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
So the one is a pretty big ticket item because that was all that switchgear that they brought in and you saw craned into all the locations, into the second floor of surgery, into the yard. If you go into the yard now, it's jam packed full of equipment, except this one spot over here where there's a spot for 3 more, and that's the 3 we're waiting for.
Jean, your vote?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you for that. Okay, the Mesa Clinical Pharmacy upgrade discussion.
Okay, so based upon what was asked of me, I looked into what would it take to replace it with a new building on the empty lot past there. And you have that in your thing. What I did is I did a bunch of Google searching, who does medical modulars, and one of the biggest companies in the is this mobile modular. And so I sent them in a query and they contacted me, and then they sent me a long list of questions and I responded to all their questions. Then we had another phone call, and basically we didn't want a plain Jane like we have now with a wood siding. And I said, but neither do we want a Taj Mahal, because they'll do, if you go on their website, they'll do a 2-story thing that looks like a built in place building, and it's all built in modules in their factory and comes out and cranes into place, and the exterior stucco gets put on it, and all, anything you want, they will build. Or they will give you a plain plywood sided 12 by 60 or 40 building if that's what you want. They do the entire spectrum. So after answering all their questions that we wanted it to look better, we wanted to have like a stucco-like exterior, not just plywood siding and things like that. And also on a perimeter CMU foundation versus just on stands with a wood skirt, kind of a thing. And that's what I've spelled out here. So that then they gave me an estimate per foot, square foot cost. And he said $300 to $350. I mean, I put $350 in here just because that would be worst case scenario. But let's just say they could do it for $300. There's still some work that we would have to do if we were to do this. So, for instance, their cost would be to come in and do the perimeter foundations and stuff and set the modules. But we would still have sewage system to put in, electrical service to bring in, water service to bring in, landscaping, parking lot, that's not included in their price. Theirs is to provide the building setting on the foundation. So, and the existing retail pharmacy is 1,200 square feet, give or take maybe 40 square feet for that little bump on the back.
Does the price that you put down here, that's just the building itself? That's not the site work or the parking lot or anything?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, and I didn't have time to try and put numbers to some of that because I'm really not sure, because we can utilize some of the existing parking lot and just reverse things and stuff, possibly. So yeah, so it was basically to try and just get a general idea, and then knowing that we had 1,200 square feet of an existing retail pharmacy, doubling it would be 2,400. That's why I had kind of had him base his estimate on probably about 2,400 square feet. But then I also, modules usually come 12 by 60, and 12 by 60 is 720. So you see down here, 2 modules, which would be 1,440, which is a little bit bigger than they have, but not very much. And then 3 modules would be 2,160. Of course, 4 modules would be 2,880 square feet, which would be more than double what they have. But you're also talking $1,008,000, to go with a 4 wide modular.
Plus the cost of the site work. So,
Yes.
so they're
$400,000
or $500,000. Yeah.
$1,400,000. Yeah. So, I mean, if we went just a little bigger, you're still talking with site work close to $1 million.
And the key to it is, the numbers we're talking about. What's construction cost being it's non-medical?
Well,
for, price per square foot going stick built.
Don't know, but it would have, but here's the advantage of going this route versus stick built. If we go stick built, it's going to be a prevailing wage job. This is based upon the entire building is built in their factory at non-prevailing wages.
Okay.
And the only prevailing wages, we discussed that, it would be prevailing wages for the work that they did on the site, for the foundations and setting the building, because that's here on our site and would have to be done that way. But the cost of building the building would not be prevailing wage. Whereas if we build a stick built building, it's going to be prevailing wage. And I don't know what that going rate is.
Option is we find something that's for sale that's already built, septic's in, electrical's in.
Yep. We have a lot of options. I just pursued this
to the table.
I brought this to the table because Gene asked me for that. And so this is where we're looking at. I mean, it's not a bad option. I mean, it would be a beautiful, nice building on a nice corner lot, and but you got to look at how much money is it going to make? You got to do a pro forma, and Tim and I were discussing it earlier today, and Tim goes, yeah, and we don't know if Rite Aid is going to move into a nice new building with a drive-through and something you know, we don't know what 10 years down the road is going to be. My crystal ball broke a long time ago.
It's cloudy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also have the, and I hate to say it this way, but we also have, we don't really have any competition with the Rite Aid reputation. We're already
Understood.
miles above that.
I understand. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean.
Not that they could revamp things and do a better job.
Here and now, we got the advantage, but
Yes, we do.
But the
Well,
future's gonna hold.
And that's true. But, you know, people aren't just talking about the building, they're talking about those that are in the building compared to ours in our
Absolutely,
building.
exactly.
And it's.
I agree. And our people have a much nicer attitude and they treat people better. I mean, I get my minor stuff I do for my heart medication. I get it Rite Aid because I've been doing it for years and years and years, and they don't mess it up. Now my wife,
Can I make a comment?
my wife won't even go there because she's so mad at it.
But you were talking about your medication. Can I make a comment about that?
Sure.
This coming year, the maximum that an individual will pay a beneficiary for drugs through Medi-Cal Medi-Cal, they pretty much don't pay anything anyway, but through all of the Medicare plans, is $2,000 out of pocket.
Yep.
I will run out regardless if no matter where I go. The first 3 months, I'll run out of that, and not even 3 months, 2.5 months.
Yep.
And so the rest of it will be free. So people will be more apt to go to us if it's convenient and we're good, even though we might be non-preferred, which I keep harping about to Tim. But so I think it was Fred that said we got the advantage. We need to keep the advantage.
Yeah.
That the cost of putting that building in is nothing compared. We need to make money to stay in business. That will help us stay in business. We need it. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this information. It's good information.
It's one option out of several. You know, of where can we go? You know, and you know, we'll need to do something. I mean, at a bare minimum, we need to put a small module behind the existing one and dress the existing one up, which we could do, you know, as probably the least expensive option, giving them additional square footage and covering up that ugly plywood siding and make the building look nicer.
That really institutional bars on the.
Yeah, well, and I discussed with Mobile Modular that we would want the security bars to be on the inside of the window where they wouldn't show.
And did this include like where we could do a drive-through?
We didn't really discuss a drive-through, but obviously if we're putting something new in place, yes, we certainly could. Yeah.
Okay.
What is the pharmacy profit per year based upon?
Yeah, I thought we were
Current.
gonna do a.
Well, I keep asking for someone to.
I mean, we should know that though, just
John,
current,
was
on
that
current numbers.
pro forma every?
I could do a pro forma for you and see where we are. Yeah. We don't actually do one, but I'll start doing one for monthly for you guys. No problem.
Well, I know we were talking about that at the last meeting, that you were gonna jump onto that once you had these numbers. Now that you have general numbers, are you able to make that happen?
I can do it. Sure. You're talking about an income statement for the pharmacy based on just the revenues that they bring in and the expenses, correct?
Yeah. Right. Do we know how long it's gonna take to pay this thing off?
How long would it take to pay up $1 million?
Longer than I'll probably be alive, most likely. It's gonna be a while. It'll take a while. I can do it a return on investment though, no problem.
The 340B would sure help us a lot on that.
Well, that's it. If we take full advantage of 340B, that'll take it down real quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And we're working with some attorneys right now to maximize the effect of 340B. And I think we are going to really see a big pickup on that in the coming year.
That's gonna help.
Okay, Bob, thanks for bringing the information.
Yes.
Any questions or anything from anybody before we adjourn?
We have to do, treasure.
Oh, that's right. And I know that. I even had it. Okay.
Okay, Bob,
All right.
thanks for the work you did on that, Bob. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're not gonna adjourn yet. I was just trying to get home apparently. So, do you, Tim, do you want to call David back? Or do we want
I
to?
don't know that we need to call David. I think we need to have an open discussion unless you have questions for David. No, I don't. From what he discussed, what I was listening to split our options between that, correct, that one.
Well, they're both multi-indexed.
Right.
The difference being is one's theoretically going to cost us 1%.
Right.
I don't see how we couldn't split 50-50 on it for this calendar year.
Me too. I'd roll the dice. I mean,
Yeah.
chances are we're gonna have a good return on that investment this year. So, let's do the 50-50 and
If that at least caps us out on the 1 at 10 1/4 at the 1% factor fee built in.
right.
And we're, cap out at 7% on the other with no fees.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
That's where I'm leaning too, Fred.
So it's the 1 year multi-index and the 1 year high cap multi-index.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, do we want to, someone make a motion?
Does anyone else have it?
I don't have any questions. That was what my thought was.
I would agree with you guys. I thought that was a good option for what David had recommended, so. Gene.
And Jean, do you have any questions?
Yes, things, it can't be bad for the next several years, so be good. But I won't be voting on it until Tim shows where he's keeping up his end of the bargain. In the past 3 or 4 years, however long it's been, 3 years, he's never been able to show his income for the last 3 years. And the agreement is it will not increase. And there hasn't been anything to show that, so.
Well, we haven't,
I'm not following what you're saying.
we haven't provided an increase for him, and that would have to come through us.
Correct.
And we have not done that.
Okay, but we need to show that it hasn't been done. I mean, what's the big deal? If it hasn't been done, it hasn't been done. Just put the numbers out, what his income has been for the past 3 years.
I can do that for you, Gene. I can do
Okay.
that for you. How long do you want to go back?
Then the market and everything should be just awesome, no matter how we do it. So I agree with what you guys are talking about.
Okay, Jean, well,
Yes.
we would like to vote on this today. That was our plan, was to vote on it at this meeting after the election.
Okay,
And that has come or
Okay.
gone. So if you
Okay.
can vote yes or no,
Okay.
or so, but we're gonna go ahead and take a vote if we have motions, okay?
you have, I'll give a motion if you don't have it.
I don't have, what? We do?
We need a motion.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, Jean, you want to make the motion then?
Yes, I'll make the motion. We approve it the way, I can't see who was talking. I think it was Ross.
Yeah, Ross and Fred both.
Describing it. Yes, right.
Okay, this is the third
The
time.
way he said,
I
yes.
agreed with Ross in a short period, so take it. Okay,
We're on a roll.
and can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, John, thank you. Okay, Jean, your vote?
Yes,
Ross, your vote?
Yes.
John, your vote?
Yes.
Fred, your vote?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So thank you very much, Jean. And
Can you let
Go ahead,
Heidi
Kim.
know? I mean, let David
David
know?
know?
I'll let them know, yeah.
all right, thank you very much. Okay, it is 2:21 and the Building and Planning Committee is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, you